Welcome to the deep dive. Today we have an account that is, well, it's just deeply unsettling. It's about an inheritance, a trip to rural Texas to close down a failing museum.
But this wasn't just any museum.
No, not at all. The man who inherited it, Jacob, he found that the public absurdity of it all was just a thin crust over something. Something terrifyingly real hidden just beneath the surface.
And that contrast is the absolute heart of this dive.
Yeah.
The source material we have, it's the narrator's own account, his grandfather Elijah's journals, and some incredibly disturbing letters. It tells the story of this man, Elijah, a PhD in mathematics.
A brilliant man.
Exactly. A brilliant man whose late-life obsession with young Earth creationism wasn't just about theology, it was a cover. A cover for a decades-long experiment to try and reverse biology itself.
So we're peeling back the layers today. On top, you have these plastic cavemen and really cheap forgeries, all meant to prove the Bible is literal history.
But underneath that, that's where you find the secret laboratory, the industrial-sized tanks.
Yeah.
And the evidence of just, aggressive, horrifying biological mutation under conditions Elijah called pre-flood.
Our mission is to explore that gap, to really get into not just what Elijah was showing people, but why. Why build all this in secret? What did he think he'd found?
And what do the grotesque results of his experiments really mean?
Okay, let's unpack this. So we start with the grandfather, Elijah, the narrator, Jacob. He remembers him from when he was a kid. He was distant, sure, but also incredibly sharp.
A maths PhD. He could talk about string theory, imaginary numbers.
And make it make sense. There was a real passion there, a real brilliance.
Which is what makes the next part so hard to square. This sudden, sharp turn into hardline young Earth creationism.
Right. Suddenly he believes the Earth is only 6,000 years old. That every single word in the Bible is literal, historical fact.
For a mind that could handle that level of abstract thought, it's a massive intellectual shift. A complete reversal, really.
And the museum was the result of that. 60 acres of land out in Texas, all for what he called biblical science.
And the exhibits, I mean, you can just picture it.
It's cognitive dissonance in a building. Imagine you walk in and there's a stone slab with a 16-inch human footprint.
Scamped right next to a dinosaur track.
Exactly, with a little sign proclaiming this proves they lived at the same time.
The sheer cheapness of it is what's so telling. The narrator describes this jungle room with these just awful, badly molded plastic cavemen for Adam and Eve.
Oh, and a stegosaurus watching Cain and Abel.
Right. But the detail that really gets me, the most absurd part, was cavemen using raptor claws.
To harvest wheat. It's imaginative, I'll give him that. But it's so unconvincing it feels like a joke.
And here's the contradiction. He spent decades on this, poured his life into it. But what's even stranger is that he argued with everyone, even other creationists.
He burned every bridge he could find. The museum had almost no visitors for 30 years.
And that isolation is just critical to understanding him. He wasn't trying to join a movement or attract a crowd. He was obsessed with his own version of the truth.
Which suggests he thought he had something they didn't. Some kind of secret proof.
A physical confirmation. Something that made him believe he was right and literally everyone else on Earth was wrong.
Okay, so with that public delusion set up, we get to the source of it all, the letter. And this is where it gets really, really interesting.
This is the turning point. It's a letter he wrote years ago to the narrator's grandmother, Ethel. It's basically a proposal.
But not for marriage.
No. It's the blueprint for his entire life's work.
Yeah.
In it, he talks about hiking on that very property, hurting his leg, and finding shelter in a cave full of strange fossils.
And then he writes, and this quote is just chilling, "I found a way down, 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 Ethel. I went deep in the earth."
That repetition. It's manic. It suggests a journey that was difficult, terrifying, almost a descent into another world.
And what he says he found there it's monumental. He called it a paradise. A piece of the world, he said, preserved from before the Great Flood.
He claimed he saw early man, still living there, 10 feet tall, a lifespan of 1,000 years, and they still spoke the tongue of God.
The language from before the Tower of Babel.
Exactly. This is the core of his entire obsession, the pre-flood conditions. He believed this underground cavern still had the primeval atmosphere, maybe higher pressure, more oxygen, whatever it was that allowed for the gigantism and longevity you read about in ancient texts.
He wasn't just trying to prove the Bible was true, he was trying to harness it. He wrote that this knowledge, this place, would let him put a stop to it all.
Wars, hunger, everything. He literally offered Ethel an eternal life, believing he could use this to biologically change humanity.
And that desire, that secret project, was hidden right under everyone's noses. The narrator finds the way in. A door hidden behind a cheap bookcase, built right on top of the cave system.
The logistics of that alone are staggering. Digging out a room bigger than a gym, installing these massive industrial tanks, all without anyone in this small Texas town noticing.
It suggests a level of resources, of something that we just can't account for.
And the second he opens that door, the reality of it hits him. First, the dark, and then this awful smell. He calls it elderhide.
Yes, and the journals are very specific about this. Elderhide, it seems to be some kind of environmental catalyst, a murky, chemically active fluid that coats everything down there. It seems to be the agent of change.
So he goes down the stairs
Yeah.
into this massive chamber, and there they are, 8 colossal glass tanks. Each one is bigger than a car.
And what's inside? It's not fossils, it's organic. Preserved flesh and bone, exposed muscle, things that just don't belong on the surface. He sees an eyeball the size of a fist, a hand with all sorts of strange, different fingers. This was Elijah's real museum.
And this is where we move from just physical description into analytical horror.
Yeah.
We have his journals, his notes on specimens 1 through 9.
He was systematically exposing living things to these pre-flood conditions.
And the results. They weren't divine. They weren't perfect. They were just chaotic, biologically unstable.
Like specimen 2, a sheep. The wool grew at this grotesque rate, and it started sprouting. Small buds, flowers, a complete cross-kingdom mutation.
Or specimen 4, a spider. It apparently reverted to what he called its aquatic roots. It just started swimming in the fluid for days before it died.
Specimen 7, a catfish, just grew and grew. Extraordinary growth, he wrote. He wondered if he'd found the origin of the Leviathan.
But it's the linguistic changes that are the most disturbing. It didn't just affect their bodies, it affected their minds.
Specimen 5, a lizard. He says it showed primitive attempts at speech.
But he had to euthanize it because, he wrote, the things it was saying were not permitted in a God-fearing society.
And specimen 8, a sparrow. That was a dreadful mistake. It died screaming obscenities. He described it as purely blasphemous.
You see the pattern here. He was seeking ancient perfection, God's original creation. But what he actually created, what this environment actually creates, is biological horror and theological chaos. It strips away modern biology and replaces it with something primitive, aggressive, malevolent even.
And then, the final entry. Bug Kunch.
Specimen 9.
Elijah himself. He writes that he's being affected by the exposure, that he has to join the great men below. He knows it's not a success, but he writes that he hopes it will bring him closer to God.
He willingly walked into the same environment that produced screaming blasphemous birds. He walked into that horror, believing it was the path to enlightenment.
A path that led him, and eventually his grandson, to a massive metal bulkhead door, the kind you'd see on a submarine.
And when the narrator gets close to it, the terror isn't a sound. It's not something he sees. It's a direct psychic assault.
A command hammered directly into his brain. Jacob opened the door.
Not a voice, a feeling. He describes it as a physical blow to the mind. His nose and mouth start bleeding. His vision whites out. He loses all control of his body. The force behind that door wasn't just intelligent. It was pure white-hot domination.
He only snaps out of it because the things in the tanks behind him start thrashing around. They sense it too, but then the local police show up, and Officer Wheeler and his deputy.
The narrator's wife had called them worried, and they, of course, have no idea what they're walking to. They insist on going down into the cave.
The compulsion grabs the narrator again, drags him back down. He says it was 1,000 times stronger this time. They followed the officers, but they were too late.
The great metal door was open, and all that was left were signs of a struggle, splashed elderhide, and a puddle of fresh, surface-world blood.
The force pulls the narrator deeper into the abyss, and he finds him. He finds Elijah.
But he wasn't divine. He was monstrous, hideously mutated, enormous, taking up a third of this huge cavern, and he was decaying. Melting in slow motion is how it's described.
Staked to the rock, tied down, with brands burned into his flesh. Whatever he joined, it wasn't paradise. It was a place of unbelievable cruelty.
As the narrator is fleeing, he literally runs into Officer Wheeler, and that shock, that physical impact, it momentarily breaks the spell.
And in that 1 second of clarity, he gets a glimpse into the mind of whatever is in there with them, the giant entity.
And what he feels from it is just burning disdain, utter contempt for the surface world, for what it thinks of as the lesser race, whatever Elijah found down there. It's ancient, it's powerful, and it hates us.
The escape is just absolute chaos. As they're scrambling back up, they hear the command again, and instantly the glass tanks behind them just they shatter.
Elderhide floods the room, and then the specimens, they're out, screaming fish things, creatures with tentacles, insectile legs. They're all breaking free.
One of them, a thing with glowing yellow eyes, attacks Wheeler, slashes his throat.
And the narrator, in just a final, desperate act, he grabs Wheeler's Zippo lighter.
And throws it into the room. The elderhide is volatile. The whole chamber just ignites, a massive explosion, and then the cave-in. It seals the whole thing.
The narrator survives. Third-degree burns, nerve damage. The official story is that Wheeler was killed by a violent attacker who fled. But the real horror is what's happening to the narrator now.
He's in a hospital, confined, being studied constantly.
He describes these terrifying physical changes. An unbearable itching. A nurse running from his room sobbing in fear. He woke up from surgery once to find doctors in full hazmat suits standing over him. They had amputated something from his leg without telling him why.
The conditions in that cave are still changing him from the inside out. He's not Jacob anymore.
You specimen, Ted.
So what does this all mean? This account from the journals and the narrator's experience, it's like a dark parable, isn't it? About the search for some kind of literal ancient truth.
Elijah sought this pure, divine state, but he used physical, biological means to get there, and all he found was mutation and blasphemy. And in the end, clinical isolation, first for himself and now for his grandson. The irony is just shattering. He wanted to perfect humanity, but all he did was turn his own family into lab rats.
And here's a final chilling thought for you. The narrator was only exposed to that environment for a few days, just a few days. And the influence was enough to fundamentally alter his biology, to the point he needs amputations and doctors in hazmat suits. If that pre-flood world can still exist, hidden beneath us, what other biological, chemical, or elemental forces are just lingering down there, waiting for the next enthusiast to dig a little too deep?